you have to like work as if you're working for the Lord. So even though the business might not fulfill you, work as if you're working for God. If he's giving you a job, you're going to do a great job at it. So work as if you are working for the Lord.
How are we doing, guys? This episode of the More to Life podcast is sponsored by my own company, the Lifestyle Lab. Now, the reason I created this podcast is because I want to inspire people to have more free and fulfilling lives. And the epic people that I bring onto this podcast are doing it. They're out there living it. They found their own way to find their own version of success and happiness. And I want that to be a cause of inspiration for other people. Now, it's one thing to be inspired, but it's a totally other thing to have complete actionable steps that you can follow to really start yourself on that journey. And that is exactly why we created the Lifestyle Lab. So the Lifestyle Lab is an online education platform, which essentially gives you more time, more money, and more freedom, giving you clear, actionable steps to follow. Now, it's not just an education platform. It's so much more than that. It's a vibrant community of thousands of people that are all like-minded, trying to help each other out, all with the support of different mentors, helping you on those step-by-step guides. Now, what it's really about is it's about freedom. And we give you freedom on 3 levels within the Lifestyle Lab. So the first one is freedom within the system. This is what online business is all about. It's about being location independent. It's about being able to work anywhere. So say, for example, your government decides to lock you up for 6 months and you don't like that. Guess what? You can jump on a plane and go somewhere where you're not going into a lockdown that you don't really agree with. Right? As one example, not to mention the fact that if you're earning $2,000 online, that goes a hell of a lot further in Thailand or Bali or somewhere in South America than it does in LA, London, or many other Western places in the world. So you can quickly get a whole new level of financial freedom by being location independent. So that's freedom within the system. The second piece is freedom outside of the system. This is where crypto comes into play, because crypto is about so much more than trading and making money. It's really, really important for where our society is going, because when you're able to transact with other human beings without needing a bank to facilitate that, all of a sudden you reclaim a level of your sovereignty. You're not reliant on the banks. You're not reliant on government. And it creates a whole different situation that you exist in. So just to look at this and take it a little step further, is there are many, many examples of governments and banks over time who didn't allow the people that own the money in those accounts to actually withdraw it. And for me personally, that's not a level of power that I like to give away to somebody else. Hence why I believe in crypto. So this is freedom outside of the system. So how you leverage that is up to you, but that's personally why I believe in crypto so much. And the third piece is freedom within yourself. This is the most important piece of the whole puzzle, because if you're not free within yourself, if you're not free from your own limiting beliefs, you're not free from your own insecurities, your own fears, you can never live the life that you truly want to live, because you're being held back by yourself, by your own subconscious patterns. And that is why the Lifestyle Lab self-development and mindset is such a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. Now, if this is something you're interested in, if you're interested in acquiring these 3 levels of freedom through the Lifestyle Lab, we're doing a special offer for the More to Life podcast listeners. So what we're doing is we're doing 10% off our lifetime package, which means that you get access to everything that we offer for 447. You pay once, that's it. And that means you get access to all the live mentors, all the live Q&As, you get access to the community, all the educational material, all the step-by-step business models that anybody can leverage with zero experience. It's all there, it's all available. So if you want to take advantage of this offer, all you have to do is follow the link that's in the description, use the code MORE2LIFE, that's MOORE, remember that one. Just use that, take advantage of it, and I'll see you on the other side. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. What's going on, man? You've been floating around, so you left Bali for a little while. Yeah. I'm just curious to know what you've been doing, what's been going on?
I can't tell you about that. It's top secret government stuff that it's top secret.
So should we just wrap the podcast up there then? Is that the end of it? Secret. Wow, okay, that was quick.
No, I've been in Dubai. Yeah. Starting a business there. Starting also a US company. Then I visited my parents as well after 2 years. No one cares, but that was
everyone cares. Everyone,
I was doing that.
Come on, tell us about the deep conversations with your mum and dad. It's important stuff.
It was great. Being back in the Netherlands. So for me, it's pretty crazy because I get recognized a lot. So the moment when I arrive at the airport, I feel this anxiety. I don't know when's the next person gonna say, hey, that's him? Like, we see him, we know him from the ads. Because in my high days, we used to run $3,000 a day in Facebook ads. A day. And the Netherlands is just a small country. 17 million people. 17 million. That's it. And our ads have been shown like 100 plus million times. Yeah. So they see my face. And then suddenly also organically, I went viral on all those meme pages. Those meme pages were saying like, I see him everywhere. Yeah. And I'm like a mini celebrity in Holland. And also at Body Factory, because there are so many Dutchies here in Bali. It's insane.
I didn't realize what a big deal you were. I really should have done a proper intro there, shouldn't I? I didn't realize. I fucked up already.
Yeah. You did.
Damn it. Oh, God, so, I'm such an amateur.
I don't know how I started this subject, but so that was the thing. In the Netherlands, I don't like to go back because I don't like taking pictures with people. I don't like to... You know that feeling that you get paranoid when people talk about you, but in reality they are not talking about you, right? So you feel this energy. Someone is like, "Oh, this is like Joe."
I mean, I've been to the Netherlands and I smoked a lot of weed when I was there, so I definitely am familiar with paranoia. Yeah, I totally get it.
So I'm paranoid, but then I figure out, oh yeah, it's true. They're talking about me. Yeah. And I hate that, man. So the freedom that I'm chasing actually with all these online businesses has backfired because now my own freedom has been compromised a little bit.
Interesting. I think that's a really good point. I think you should delve into a little bit about your background, because you loosely touched on this, and obviously you've been a successful business owner for a long time now. You've done a lot of different things over the years. You're doing some really exciting stuff right now. But I'd love for people to understand a little bit about what it was that you were doing back in the day. Everyone knows you were running a serious amount of ads, but what exactly were you doing when you first started out?
I was the first info marketer in the Netherlands. That was actually running ads, webinar, that kind of thing. So when I started out as like just a entrepreneur. Like, I want to start a social media agency, or I want to do some e-commerce, some drop shipping. So I was trying different kind of things. And after a year finally of consistently failing, I finally was successful with e-com. I was starting to make a few $1,000s a month with just my e-com store. And people started to ask me like, how do you do that? Because I was going to festivals with all those friends. And they were still like folding clothes at Zara or whatever. And they suddenly saw me traveling around, like working in Spain. Like I was just chilling in Spain and working from my laptop. And people were saying, hey, can you teach me that? And I thought, man, I don't know. I love to teach you. But yeah, sure, I can try. I didn't feel qualified yet because it was all new to me as well. But then I called one guy and I said, hey man, I would love to shoot this for you. I would love to teach you. But I need to buy a camera. I need to buy some whiteboards. I need to buy some gear. So is it okay if I charge you like $200 and I'm going to buy all this stuff and I'm going to record something cool for you? He said, yeah, sure. And then another person sent me a message and I did the same. Like, hey man, I need another camera. I just used the same page. And in one day, 10 people said yes, like I'm in. And I made $2,000.
And you had 10 cameras.
10 cameras. Yeah. So I thought, wow, this is interesting. And then I started to learn more about the information industry, about marketing, about funnels. And that just took off. And we scaled that to 10 million USD by running so many ads in the Netherlands. And yeah, that has been going on for 3-4 years. And then last year it stopped. Last year I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it like this anymore. And I thought it was pretty easy to just stop.
Can you define like this? What do you mean when you say that?
What do you mean?
You said you didn't want to do it like this anymore.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, running ads. Like I felt that I was creating, so maybe some entrepreneurs can relate to this. Eventually you're scaling up your team. You have certain systems in place. And then you've created your own cage. Like now you have to be there Monday at that meeting, Wednesday there, Thursday you need to shoot some content, Friday you need to deliver it, there's another meeting. You create your own cage, actually. Like it's a better cage than a 9-to-5 cage, like wake up at 7 and go commute. But it's still a cage. And my initial motivation was freedom. And when we scaled the business to that height, I felt trapped. Like, oh, I need to deliver X amount of ads or else we will be burning money. So I had to create like 10 videos a week and just like every week delivering that. And if I didn't, then we were losing money. So I was in a rat race, in a kind of rat race. But it's like a golden rat race, and you can buy stuff and you can travel around. So it's a better rat race than the 9 to 5. But it was still, I still felt trapped. So I knew that if I would start a business again and would scale to that height, I would do it differently. Something that's more resonating with me as a person, because that wasn't resonating with me anymore. I was this online persona, super loud, like, hey, I'm retired, I'm 23 years old, I'm retired, no. I don't know, I never felt comfortable there. But at the same time, I knew the metrics from the ads, and it did convert because it was triggering people. So that was the dilemma. Do I create this type of controversial content and gonna run ads with it, or am I going to calm down a bit? And in hindsight, it was better to just calm down and do it in a more sustainable way. But instead, like me and my 2 business partners, we just went full on it. And that backfired a bit. That backfired because my freedom is gone there.
Yeah, it's interesting how that pans out, right? So every entrepreneur, I believe, they get into it because they want a different level of freedom. They want more money, more time, more freedom to do whatever it is they want.
Yeah.
But the reality is, as soon as you start to scale your company, essentially you then create a corporate structure, which then means that the very thing that you were trying to escape is actually the thing that you then that you have to be involved in.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of weird like dilemma, is I'm going to be free up until the point I trap myself in this corporate structure that I wanted to escape from in the first place.
Yeah. Exactly. That's it. Exactly. So I don't know if you resonate with that. Like, do you also feel that when you start out a company, you're motivated, you feel that freedom, and then eventually when you actually get to scale, there are some things that are not so fun to do. And I don't know if trapped is the right word. That was definitely my previous business, but it can just feel like a chore. Yeah, like you don't really enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's probably similar for a lot of entrepreneurs. There's that buzz when you first start a business. Yeah. There's so much excitement around it, and then a reality sets in that you need to create systems, and processes, which is not the exciting part, let's be honest. The exciting part is turning an idea into reality. And then once you've kind of made it reality, and then you have to systemize it and make it more efficient, not quite as fun, right? Mm-hmm. Not fun at all.
It's not. And I think there are 2 types of people. So number 1, you got the visionaries, people who have great ideas and they're just thinkers. I think if I hear you, you're definitely a visionary. You have this vision in front of you and you have great ideas coming to you. That's easy, right? We have too many ideas, actually.
For sure.
And then you got the operators, the executors, people who love to dig in. Those people they just want to they don't like to just strategize. They like to get dirty, get their hands dirty, just work long hours. And I'm just not built like that. Like, I've been telling myself, like, okay, just, Pomodoro techniques and just sit down for 6 hours, deep work, this and that. But I don't enjoy that. And I discovered that I could hire people and they love it. They hate the impulsive things, new ideas, switching around. No, they love to sit down and just execute. And when I discovered that fact, I could embrace more of who I am. Like, I'm just a visionary, I'm a thinker, I get great ideas. I'm just gonna own it.
Yeah, I'm in a very, very similar position. Like, you're bang on. For me, it's always that I have to force myself to sit there at my laptop and do these things. I don't want to do that. I want to float around having phone calls, having meetings with people, and shit just comes to me. Yeah. And opportunities just come to me. Yeah. And before I know it, when I'm actually like flowing in that kind of way, things just fall in my lap. And before you know it, I'm working on a new project. So the best thing to do is to find those people that really want to get their hands dirty and get involved and actually help you build it,
Yeah, and the most terrible thing that you can do, like if I could give some advice, I hate giving advice actually, but for us is to surround ourselves just with executors. But it's very hard to find them because the other visionaries are also out there networking, chilling, and then you tend to you want to hang out with other visionaries and you can talk about ideas, and you're eating this steak together and you have this $1 billion idea and you're super hyped and want to get to work. and then nothing happens.
Yeah, and then before you know it, you're off floating around talking about the next big idea.
Yeah. I hate that about myself, but I know how to counter it, and that's just self-awareness. If you're aware of your weaknesses, then you can build in systems that will counter that. So, for example, I have a COO, and she's amazing, and she's like every month she's schooling me. Like, come on, you had this new idea and you don't want to do it anymore, and we've been working on it for the last months. I'm gonna tell her, hey, if I have a new idea, just say no to me. And I would hate it, but then show me this screenshot that I sent this to you. Like, I can build in systems now that she's gonna stop me, or at least balance me out, or ask me the tough questions that other visionaries maybe don't, because they're hyped as well. We're both hyped. It's like falling in love, right? It's easy to fall in love and then think that you want to marry that person. Like, you see her, you're in love, you want to marry that person, and after a year you fall out of love, or after 2 years you fall out of love again, and then you're like, nah, I don't want to marry that person. And I think it's the same with entrepreneurship. You fall in love with this idea. Two people fall in love with this idea. They're super hyped. They think it's going to be the next $1 billion idea, and it's nothing.
It turns into absolute. There's just zero execution.
Yeah.
So when did this really drop in for you? When was it that you suddenly realized, okay,
this year,
this is how I need to operate?
This year, for sure. Because before that, I was pretty focused. I was focused on a few things. I was also preaching that to everyone. You don't want to catch 2 rabbits at once. If you're going to chase two rabbits, you catch none. All those, quotes that can help you with focus. Don't feel fear of missing out. And I was doing that. And then last year, when one of my businesses collapsed, I started to try new things. And then I discovered this. Like, I'm too good at starting new things. I have too many opportunities. My network is great. I can start like 20 businesses tomorrow if I want, but none of them will succeed if I don't focus or put my effort into one thing, or surround myself with the right people that can execute it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that ethos. We'll briefly discussing before the podcast started that kind of, when you first start out as an entrepreneur, all you can do is look for opportunities. You're just looking for everything that you can just start.
Yeah.
And then the challenge later on becomes focusing your attention on that one or maybe 2 things, depending on whether they overlap correctly or not. That's where it gets really interesting, because otherwise you just end up completely burning yourself out, running after too many rabbits.
And this is the hard part. When you start out, you want to try more things, right? But eventually, let's say you succeed with drop shipping. Then after a year, like, you're a successful drop shipper. After 2 years, you still are. And then in year 3, you're like, yeah, do you really want to do this? And do you feel that this is a long-term plan? Because I feel we need a big apple to bite in. Like, we need to bite into something, a greater plan, like a purpose, if you will. And I couldn't feel that with just drop shipping. I just felt like, I didn't do drop shipping, but I can imagine that if you're a drop shipper, after a few years, you're like, I really want to do something meaningful.
I hated it. I did do drop. Yeah. I went through that whole process of just got into e-com, started scaling some stores. We started doing doing it in different countries and translation, all that shit. And it was the worst thing ever. I just got to a certain point with it. I was like, this doesn't fulfill me in any way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. I'm not offering any real value. There's nothing for me here other than monetary gain. And there's a point of diminishing returns with that. By all means, go out, get paid. Highly recommend it, and you'll learn a hell of a lot. But there'll be a certain point where this just doesn't work for you anymore. You need to transition to something more fulfilling.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting part, because for me, I've been struggling with that. I've been struggling with so here I'm saying, like, dropshipping is probably not your long-term business, and you don't get the fulfillment out of it. Okay, so I tried the other way, letting go completely and only creating videos or doing things that are fulfilling to me. I did that for 6 months, no cash flow. And my working capital got lower and lower. I'm lucky enough to like have some money from the past, but working capital got lower and lower and lower, because I didn't want to sell that quickly. I want to build, and then eventually we'll monetize. But I also found out, like, that doesn't work. You definitely need to focus as well on making money. Just sell. You always be selling and those kind of things. So that has been very hard for me to balance, because I'm pretty black and white. or this or that. And I asked my pastor in Dubai, like I have a pastor there, and I just asked him this question, like, what should I do? I can just focus on making money, but I feel a bit like I don't want to be salesy all the time, and I just want to talk about like the Bible and things that relate to me. Or should I just sell and just go for it? Or should I just, the Lord will provide, we just create cool content and we'll see what happens. And his answer shocked me because he said, focus on the business. I said, what? Like, I just wanted to hear the other answer. That's why I'm asking a pastor.
You're like, come on, you loaded it in that favor, didn't you?
I was ready. But he said, focus on the business. And I said, why? And he told me, well, in the Bible, it also says that you have to like work as if you're working for the Lord. So even though the business might not fulfill you, work as if you're working for God. If he's giving you a job, you're going to do a great job at it. So work as if you are working for the Lord. And the people, if I want to inspire people to maybe read the Bible or maybe look into Christianity, that's like my long-term goal, because I believe Jesus is real, I believe God is real, and I believe that if I die, there could be heaven and hell. And for me, like the long-term goal, if we really think long-term, then what would be most fulfilling is if I would die and they would say, hey man, you did a good job. You spread the word and everything. That's an amazing job. So that's my long-term goal. And then he said, you know what, if that's your long-term goal, great. Do your business. I said, why? He said, well, if you're going to make a lot of money in your business, people can see that you are blessed. People will see that you have favor from God. And then they will turn to God. Not by me telling them, but by you doing your things amazingly.
I can really relate to that whole process, especially what you were saying about the whole not wanting to be really salesy. So to give you some background about myself, when I first started out as an entrepreneur, my first early days, it was drug dealing. So I was involved in selling white, selling weed.
You were a drug dealer?
I was a drug dealer.
Bro, that's why you're such a good businessman.
But yeah.
I believe drug dealers are great businessmen.
They are.
Like an upsell, cross-sell, you want some ecstasy.
Exactly. Do you want a bit of this? Do you want a bit of that? And the worst case scenario in any meeting that I have now is definitely far, far better than how bad it could have gone back in the day. So risk reward is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
So I started off in that game and I was so opposed to it. By the end of it, I ended up having a mental breakdown. I hated everything I was doing. I was involved in call centers, which were like shitty, like cold calling, over the phone sales, real hard selling. And I had such a distaste for selling, even though I was good at it. I've always been good. Hated it with a passion. So then every other business that I went into, I realized I had such a mindset issue around selling. I didn't want to be that guy because I associated sales with all the negative things that I'd done in the past. And I ended up having to go through this whole process only within the last couple of years. I completely shifted my headspace around it by realizing what I offer now is value. I actually help people's lives in so many different ways. There is nothing wrong with selling something that adds value to somebody's life. And it was a complete transition for me. And very much like what the pastor was saying, I realized that the more money I earn, the more I'm going to funnel that into good things, the more value I'm going to give. So that money actually serves a greater purpose in my hands because then I can help more people in the long term. And that completely shifted my whole headspace around it. And I realized that I had this mindset block around money being a kind of dirty thing, sales being a dirty thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Where does that come from? Like, was that from the drug dealer period? Like you're giving someone drugs so you don't feel good by selling it, but you need to do it for the money, or where does it come from?
Yeah, so I felt during that whole process, I compromised my integrity. So even when I was making really good money in that game, I was making good money in the call center game. I got to this certain point where I was living so out of integrity that I ended up having a mental breakdown. I couldn't do it anymore. That's when I ended up leaving the UK, flying to Thailand and just going backpacking to like kind of find myself and work my life out, right? Yeah. And it was because I'd compromised my integrity, I realized how much I damaged my soul by doing the things that I had done. I was like, I can't do that anymore. And what essentially happened is I then attached all these other things and created meaning around it. Like the sales was the dirty thing. It wasn't. The drug game was the dirty thing. The call center game was the dirty thing. The act of selling isn't so much. And one of the things that is kind of a saying that I came up with, the difference between manipulation and inspiration is purely your own intent. They both have the same qualities. The person that can inspire has the same charismatic skills as the person that can manipulate you. But the only difference between those two human beings is the person's heart and their intent and what they really want to achieve in the world.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, and when that landed for me, I was able to completely shift my whole headspace around it.
Man, that's beautiful. I love that. In the Bible, it also says that that's very interesting because the Lord looks at your heart. And if you believe that there is a God, or potentially there could be a God, he knows your intentions. He knows it. And that's just, I don't know, man. That's so interesting because no one could ever discover your true intentions because you can mask it very well, right? Only you can get tired of it yourself by holding up to a certain image, or you could just, and God, it's between you and God. Like only you two know like what is like your real thing, like why are you doing certain things. So that's interesting, dude.
I think eventually it falls apart. I think you can mask it for so long.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately there will be a part of yourself that realizes you're out of integrity and you're living an inauthentic life.
Yeah.
And there's a part of our souls that genuinely crave to be authentically who we are.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
So how do you do that? So were you always like authentic from a young age, or did you grow into it when you started to gain more confidence? Like how did that journey go for you? Because I think a lot of people who are listening, they're like, I would love to be that free, like Joe. He can express himself so freely, like he's himself, he's doing his thing. But they might find it hard to really own up to who they are, or to find out who they actually are, to find out their values. So how was that journey for you?
I think it's a work in progress. I'm still deciphering what real Joe looks like, as I think we all are. I think it really starts with attunement. So I think we spend so much of our time masking our real feelings. I think especially as men, we're taught not to cry from an early age, just to man up, just to get on with things. And I think that whole process of suppression of how we really feel disconnects us from feeling who we really are. So I actually feel like a big part of my journey has been reconnecting with my feelings. And then from there, I can gain a level of attunement as to how I want to show up in the world and what feels good for me.
Can you cry?
I actually can.
Yeah.
This was a new thing for me.
Because I could never cry.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So I've cried more in the last 2 months than I have in the last 20 years of my life. So, and I mainly accredit this to the kind of emotional release work that I've done in like a tantra capacity.
Okay.
So you familiar with tantra?
Yeah, like, so for me, like, that's just like sexual energy. Like you try to circulate it and stuff, right?
That's a component. There is a sexual component, but ultimately what it's about is inner union. It's uniting whether it be that you can use the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine within yourself.
Yeah, okay.
And inner union is about bringing that together and being a more authentic, like unified version of yourself. And there's a lot of different practices that you can do within that space. And one of them was just actually learning how to feel. And for me, that didn't come naturally. This was like a really weird, mind-blowing kind of experience that I realized is that we assume that people feel everything the way we do, when in actual fact, we don't. We all feel emotions to different levels. So I realized in my past relationship that I wasn't really aware of most of the feelings that I had. I couldn't really distinguish between the feeling of guilt, shame, anger, sadness. I would sometimes feel anger, or I'd just feel numbness or disconnect. And I mean, can you discern guilt, shame? Are they easy for you to discern?
I think it's just like the turmoil that you feel from the inside, and you don't really label it into one thing. So yeah, I think I can relate to you. Yeah.
So my instinctive reaction would be just go straight to disconnect. Yeah. So rather than feeling the feelings, disconnect is the comfortable one.
Feeling the feelings.
Right. So, and I've done that for years subconsciously, didn't even realize, had no idea. Yeah. And then it's only by doing different practices, which usually involve breath, sound and movement, which is focusing on the physical sensation with the body, practicing this over time, meditating a hell of a lot, and actually having a new level of sensitivity to the feelings that come up in your body. All of these things resensitize us to what we're feeling. And for me, a big part of my journey was practicing that in a consistent way. Now I'm very clear on the feelings that I feel. And when I feel that particular way in any given situation, I'm a fuck yes or a fuck no to so many things. Do I want to do this? You know, when someone hits you up and then you like ask you if you want to do this thing, and sometimes you kind of go, yeah, and you loosely make the plan. If I'm a no, I'm a straight no, you know? And having that level of attunement to how I actually feel and what I really want to do just gives me a lot more clarity in the world.
Yeah, cool. So you've cried a lot.
In the last 2 months, yeah.
And how does it feel?
It's like a full-on, it's just a release.
Yeah.
It was, so just to give some context, so I recently broke up with my ex-girlfriend, really beautiful relationship. Broke up, it kind of rewrote what breakups look like, you know.
Come back, please.
Yeah. I love you.
I miss you.
Yes. So that was a really interesting experience.
Yeah.
And being able to feel that for the first time after doing all the work that I've done, actually feel it. Normally I'd just go complete, in the past I'd go disconnect, work, completely ignore whatever happens, go sleep with some girls, that'll make everything feel better, you know, go down that whole route, which is all just suppression rather than actually feeling. And a real big thing happened. I was actually staying at Scott's house, and when I just got back to Bali, I went through this whole process, took myself through it, ended up crying at the end of it. And then on the other side of that, I just felt like a whole new level of motivation that I was able to then redirect towards work, because it was like I'd moved something within myself that it became a superpower and a fuel.
That's so cool. So I could never cry. And I think it's it definitely has to do something with a father figure in your life. I feel that's where it comes from my side. And I had this one-on-one coaching session with Elliot Hills. I don't know if you know him, Elliot Hills. He's like a man. And I thought...
Elliot Hills?
Yeah.
I used to watch his YouTube videos back in the day. He used to be like a strong man and shit.
That guy, yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So I thought, you know what? I can never cry. Like, why is that? And me and my ex-girlfriend, she recommended me to like, she watches Elliot Hills videos like instead of me.
Fair enough.
And she said like maybe it's good to have a call with him. So I started Googling Elliot Hills coaching calls. It was like, I think it was $1,000 per hour just for a one-on-one session. And I thought, like, you know what, it's quite a lot, but you know what, let's do it, because I can't cry. So I jumped on this call with him, and I saw him. I said, hey, and he said, hey, I remember you, because I've been at one of his retreats 5 years ago. He said, I remember you. I said, yeah, cool. Good to see you. He said, good to see you. And then I thought, okay, he's going to say something now. Like, he's going to say, hey, welcome to this call. We're going to do this. He didn't say anything. And I didn't say anything, because I thought, like, this is your call, bro.
You're in charge here, bro.
Yeah,
come on.
This is your call. I paid $1,000. You're going to take me through it. He didn't say anything for a long time. He started to breathe in, like, and I was just sitting there, and I was also breathing in, like, and it was quiet for like 30 seconds. Nothing. And I felt this pressure to talk. Like, it's awkward. Like, I have to talk. But I didn't allow myself to talk. I thought, no, I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to sit there.
Being stubborn at this point.
And then eventually he said, like, so how can I help you? And I explained my situation. I said, hey, I can't cry. I can't cry, and I feel that I am suppressing things, and I'm not feeling those emotions. And what do you think about it? What do you think about like crying and those things? And it's really interesting what he said. He said, well, if you can't cry, then that's fine. Like, why do you want to cry? And probably it's because it feels good to cry, and that's why most people cry. I said, whoa, it feels good? He said, yeah, it's like an orgasm. Because what happens with your body when you're having an orgasm? Like shallow breathing. I'm not gonna.
Please do.
Can you show me? Like, I want to check.
Should we do it together? Like, should we come together? Yeah.
And that's the same effect like as crying. Like, if you feel like you want to cry and it builds up.
There's some other stuff happening for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things going on generally, but
yeah, it's building
taken.
up.
Okay.
And then eventually you let go of the tears and it gets wet. Same like when you have an orgasm, like it gets wet. And he said like, that's why people cry, because it feels good. And he said it's totally okay to not cry. And then he spoke about, so that was just very interesting. And he made me feel that it was more okay to not cry and to... and he was defining the Western world as a feminine world. Like we want men to cry and we want to do, we want your parents to say, hey, I love you and this and that. While in the Eastern part of the world, where we are at here, Balinese, Thailand, China especially, we don't say we love you. They just cook for me. That's how they show love. That's why the food is so good, right? But they don't say, I never heard like, I love you. Or, so I never saw my parents using their emotions. It was pretty dry. It was just like they were working, cooking. And I thought that was supposed to be that way. But when I went to my friend's house, I saw everyone being so loving with each other, right? Whenever my friend left his house, was like, hey, I love you. Hey, come here, give me a kiss before you leave. And I thought, why does my mom never kiss me before I leave? And that's just a cultural difference. And that was what Elliot Hills was describing. Like your father, and it was especially about my father, he said, your father, you have this, you think that your father needs to say, hey, son, I love you. But it's okay. Same like here in the world, Mother Nature, you can see Mother Nature, you can appreciate her. She's there. Like you see the trees, it's here. But the Father, the God, you can't see him. You can see the Father, like behind Mother Nature. But the Father makes sure everything works. The Father makes sure that Mother Nature is taken care of and that she can grow. Well, you can't see the Father. And he just made this beautiful analogy. And then I made peace with my connection with my own dad, that he was just more distant, but he was still there in the background. I don't need my dad to say, hey, I love you, son, and give me a kiss before you leave, like my friends. And it just put a lot in perspective for me. Like, okay, I don't need to cry necessarily, and the Father is more like God. You can't see him directly, and the West is more feminized. That's why everyone is like soft and just it's a feminine world there. So that was very interesting. And I didn't cry a lot since then as well. Like I never cry, and that's why I'm jealous. Actually, I would love to cry because I know how good it feels to actually cry afterwards. Like you feel so empty. It feels like your spirit has been restored or something.
When was the last time you cried?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I do know. It was actually like this one time. It was actually, I think, 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 months ago. I cried once, and then was this dry spell.
See,
before.
I'm not sure I agree with that particular perspective.
Yeah, I'm not sure as well.
At least from my personal experience. So I was very much in a place where I just didn't cry, saw no value in it, didn't see the point. I also don't feel like crying feels particularly good. It's actually painful because I feel like I'm actually more going through like a painful time when that's happening. Afterwards, it feels good because I feel like I've moved the emotion through my body and then it's released and it creates space for something else. So something they often talk about in Tantra is that the extent that you can feel pain is the extent that you can feel pleasure.
Tantra.
Yes. So it operates on like a similar spectrum. So the capacity to which we can feel pain in our bodies then directly relates to the capacity which we can feel pleasure. And one thing I've definitely noticed is by being able to feel a deeper level of pain and go into a deeper level of sadness, I'm able to experience higher levels of joy and higher levels of like motivation as a result and drive. So that would be the kind of flip side, at least that's in my experience. So by going into the sad or negative side, if you want to call it that, I've been able to experience a lot more positives as well.
How do you accept that? Because we all like, for me, I tend to run away from those emotions subconsciously. I want to work myself through it, but is there a certain protocol that you use for example, you feel bored or you feel lonely, what would you do?
Be with it. It's always the stillness. This is the beauty of meditation. This is what this is. This is why so many people struggle to meditate. How many people have you met over the years just say, oh yeah, I just get bored, or my brain just keeps wandering?
Yeah, everyone.
Everybody that doesn't meditate has the same excuses. And ultimately what that boils down to is an inability to be with yourself, an inability to be with the thoughts that are arising within you, the feelings that are arising. Yeah. So how often do you see people that something comes up, something's difficult, and then they revert to something else? For example, you see people that procrastinate all the time. They're usually procrastinating because they're facing a challenge. The task in front of them is quite hard. They don't know what to do, so they put it off and do something easier. That is essentially running away from the feeling of feeling inadequate or feeling incapable of accomplishing the task in many ways. In the same way that people that feel pain want to distract themselves from it, people that feel sadness want to distract themselves. Yeah. The example that you used a minute ago about feeling sad, going through a breakup and then just going straight into work. What you're doing there is replacing a negative feeling. I use the term negative very loosely, by the way, with something that feels better, that feels good. So you're chasing good feelings always. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I truly believe that the ability to be with those tougher emotions is how you create not only more resilience, but you also increase your capacity to experience the better emotions.
So practically, you would say, meditate, sit with it. That's what you would do if you feel those emotions.
Yeah. And then, of course, if you're really struggling, breath, sound, and movement is a practice that's often used. So by breathing, obviously allows you to connect to your body in general. And then sounding, it actually stimulates the vagus nerve, which allows your body to send the message to your brain and backwards and forwards, right? So your brain is able to connect to the feelings in your body better. So this is why you might see like spiritual people going, oh, making all sorts of noises and shit. There's actually like scientific basis to all this shit. Okay. It actually allows you to connect to your feeling body in a deeper way.
Yeah. There are also like emotions stored up in your body, right? So how does that work?
In what sense? How does it work?
I'm just curious. I've read about like traumas being trapped inside of your body, and it seems like you know a lot about like movement, body, emotions. So I just want to learn here, man. I just want to learn from you.
Okay.
How does that work? Like, could it be if something is tense, for example, for a while, and you don't know why? Could it be like emotionally, or is it just because I hit the gym hard?
Okay, yeah. So a classic example of this, like looking at the relationship between your physical body and your emotional state. So if you were to imagine somebody who's depressed, can you imagine how they would stand, what their posture would look like?
Yeah.
You can imagine that, right?
Shallow breathing. Down,
exactly. Probably
sad.
Rounded shoulders, probably head forward. If someone stays depressed for an extended period of time, their physical appearance is going to reflect that of somebody who is depressed. So as a direct result, you're storing your emotions in your body. That's a very direct example. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Much in the same way that if you're trying to protect yourself, so if you're familiar with body language, somebody who's not comfortable may cross their arms, for example. The reason they're doing that is because they're protecting their vital organs, subconsciously protecting that. So if you're constantly somebody that doesn't feel safe, you're constantly closing the front of your body, you're going to then manifest a physical experience of somebody that's protecting themselves. And as a result, so in a more spiritual context, you say somebody's maybe got a tight heart. They've got a contraction around there because they don't always feel safe. They don't feel open, you know? So that's kind of an example of that on like a more 3D kind of level. But the basic premises of that is the more trauma and stuff we go through, we start to accumulate these areas, these knots of contraction within the body in a lot more subtle ways. And then what happens is these things get triggered by events that happen in day-to-day life, even if they're not necessarily related to the original thing. They just remind us of something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. So do you feel that there are people that you might know that walk around without all those stored up traumas and emotions? Or do you think like zero, like everyone has traumas?
Everyone's got bullshit. I mean, there's like hard traumas and soft traumas, right? You've got the hard trauma, which would be something like really physical. Maybe you got physically attacked. And then you've got the softer traumas, which probably relates more to what you were talking about previously about how you experienced your family growing up. It can be the small things of not being told that you were loved. It can be things like, I don't know, a parent being distant, for example. And the way you interpret that as a child, you're not interpreting with your prefrontal cortex and your logical thinking mind. You're interpreting it with an underdeveloped brain that only picks up on energy, you know, as an example. So it's a lot easier for those soft traumas to take place. And this usually happens usually up to the age of 7.
Yeah, gotcha. Beautiful. What is this?
Yeah.
Who's singing?
It's the mosque. We're next to the mosque. Yeah, this means it's time to pray. Have you prayed today?
Amen. Yeah, a little bit. You want a prayer? What do you want to pray for?
I'm good. I'm good right now. I don't think it would be a particularly good watch. I'll normally meditate for a minute at this time. But
yeah?
Yeah. Do you reckon should we give a meditation instruction?
I would say, I can do a prayer for you.
Okay, go on.
I'll pray for you, yeah?
Okay, I'll take a prayer.
All right. Lord God, I ask you to bless Joe, his household here. May his house be blessed. May he feel peace whenever he enters the space. Lord, I ask you to bless his reach, his audience, since he's creating amazing content that will inspire many people. Lord, I will ask you to protect him. Keep on giving him amazing opportunities. Favor from you will flow into his life. It will overflow. May you give him the love that he feels. Fill his heart. Lord, I ask you to do all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
All good, bro.
Thank you for the prayer. I'd love to actually touch on that.
Yeah.
So when we first met, you kind of touched on how your journey moved towards a more religious context. I'm really interested to learn how you transitioned from this entrepreneur obsessed with making money, wanting to crush it in all departments, to then really kind of choosing a path of God and really taking a different direction with your life.
Yeah, I love that. So I've been struggling with that not struggling, but just, as I said, I'm very black and white. So either I'm going to go full into business or I'm going to full go into to following God. And that's why I had this pastor telling me, you can go full into business and combine those two, because people will see that your business is blessed by God. The reason, I can make 100 million and people will be like, how did you do that? I could say that's God. And it will have so much weight to it, instead of me just creating content. Hey man, bro, follow God.
What's the difference between talking about it and embodying it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel a lot of peace with combining those two. I feel that before I used to, I was definitely obsessed with just success. Not especially making money, but just success. And money is just a good measurement, because you can see it. It's tangible. But it does nothing, man. It does nothing. It's just numbers. And now I feel that I'm still going to do business, because I've noticed that, hey, God has blessed me with those business abilities, the skills to see what to do in the world and how to do it. So yeah, I'm going to use that for his kingdom. So instead of me walking away from my skill, I could be a painter and still be Christian and inspire millions of people by my paintings. I can be a musician and rap and make beautiful songs while still glorifying the Lord. And I feel that that's been the way for me now. And the success that I had will be tenfold, hundredfold, thousandfold with God. And then I can truly say, hey man, I was obsessed. I only talked about money. It brought me here. Then I started to do the same things, but with God, and it brought me here. So guys, follow God.
So where did it start for you? So were you always a particular religious person?
Bro, I hated religion.
Okay, this is a good bit. This is what I want to know. I want to know this transition.
Religion.
I tell you for why this interests me. Because more and more among conscious entrepreneurs, I am seeing the move towards this space. They're taking a more spiritual stance, and whether it be spirituality and just believing in nature, or whether it be a Christian God, a Muslim God, I'm seeing so many entrepreneurs go in this direction and start to kind of reassess their perception of reality, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's because, so how I see life, are you good? Yeah? So how I see life is 4 areas. If you optimize your health, because without health, you can have all the money in the world, but it would be useless. You can't enjoy it. You're not healthy. So you need to optimize your health, wealth, then your relationships, love, and your spirituality. And I feel those successful entrepreneurs around you, they are healthy. They have a 6-pack, and they're eating good, no cheat meals and those kind of things. They're I think, wealthy. They're doing well. They have great friends, good connections, good business network connections. And then the fourth thing comes last for most high achievers, because they feel like, okay, it comes later. And that is usually spirituality. So I feel that if you don't have that, what I've seen is you will always feel this sense of unfulfillment. There's this little hole that you can't fill with money, not with relationships, not with health. Like, you just can't fill it as only with God or spirituality. So you need to be spiritually aligned to be able to feel whole, I feel. So yeah, back to the point. I hated religion. Like, I hated it. I thought it's for mind control. It's to control the stupid people. So you just make up a story so you have control. Like, hey, obey the government and they will all obey you because they read the story. And I still am discovering, because I'm a new Christian, just a year now, but I'm still discovering. And I think for me, it's not necessarily about religion, like the rules. I feel it's more just God's love for me that I'm honoring, and my relationship with God. So I'm skipping all the small like rules, because you could go to the church every Sunday, but still not feel a connection with God. Right? You could meditate every day, but still not feel spiritually aligned. And for me, the direct connection that you have with God, your walk with God, is more important than all those small rules. So for example, you need to fast on X, or you can't eat this, or you can't eat whatever. Like those rules, that's religion. And for me, Christianity is just a relationship with God directly. Like, we have a personal God. That's what I believe. God is not just this. Before it was the universe for me, but the universe sounds pretty impersonal. Like, it's just there. It's like the universe. It's everything. And for me, God is pretty personal. So yeah, that's it for me, man. I don't like the rules around it. I'm quite a rebel, and I didn't like religion. I was never looking for God or anything. But just God's love and God's grace, just God is looking for me, and now I'm honoring that.
I love that. I'm curious. So I very much shared a similar thing. I had, at least for organized religion, for me, it was the dogma is why I didn't appreciate it. As like, it was a means of controlling people. It was always human beings get involved, and all of a sudden there's a very corrupt element to organized religion. And that's what I grew up with and didn't really have much of a taste for it. And then I would say I've more evolved spiritually, and I've gone down an array of different modalities, and I just start to notice between all religions, they all just seem to be a beautiful story for how to live a more fulfilling, happy life, you know? And if you just take them as stories and guidance, there's so much value there, so much value. Jordan Peterson is a beautiful example of like bringing different religions in with the human experience and human psychology. And I'm kind of curious, what was it that led you towards Christianity? Because you're saying that you weren't particularly religious, you didn't like organized religion, so you weren't really, you weren't born into a family where this was the religion you were given. Why was it particularly Christianity that kind of took your fancy?
I was actually open, so I was reading a lot of books, many books. I've read hundreds of books, and then eventually you discover that most of the books are actually the same thing. It's the same inside, just in another package. Yeah. Think about Think and Grow Rich, and if you read The Secret, and then the Science of Getting Rich, like it's all
always the same shit.
Yeah,
repackaged.
And eventually, I thought I have this hunger for wisdom instead of knowledge. So knowledge would be more of those kind of books, top 100 self-help books, top 100 business books, finance books. Instead of downloading my brain with more knowledge, I felt this hunger for wisdom. And I thought, okay, what books would challenge me or could provide me wisdom? And 2 books popped up, the Quran or the Bible. And I wasn't religious. I still wasn't open to it. Like, I'm not going to be a religious guy, but I thought there must be some wisdom there that I could apply into my life. So it was more from a personal development perspective that I started to, or wanted to start one of those books. So I had this hunger. but I still couldn't decide. So I literally have stories. It would be cool if we would find those stories again. I think it was a while ago, where I literally had a poll on my Instagram saying, should I read the Quran or should I read the Bible? That was the start. And I think the Quran even won with votes.
No. Why don't you listen to the people, man?
I don't listen to the people. So here's the funny thing.
If you went with the Quran, you'd be enjoying the mosque that's singing right now. You'd be loving that.
I would be facing Mecca.
You would. You'd be there.
So here's the thing. So that was on my mind. Then, but I didn't took any action on it. Then I went to Tony Robbins to his seminar, Date with Destiny, amazing seminar. And then there was this. I was having a lunch break. I was eating at a cheesecake factory. Ordered some food, big portions. I didn't expect that. I was used to Dutch portions, and if you know, Dutch are cheapskates. They give you small portions. So I was in America, and it's like this huge portion, and it was too much. I tapped on the shoulder of one of those guys next to me, and this man, older man, and I said, "Hey, I ordered too much food. Do you want to share this? Like, let's share this food together." He said, yeah, sure. So we started eating together, and we were talking. And then he said, like, I'm the pastor of Tony Robbins. I said, what? Tony Robbins, is he a Christian? And are you the pastor? He said, yeah, I'm a pastor. And you know what? We had food, and I said, whoa, that's interesting, because I've been thinking about reading the Bible. And he said, let me activate you. I said, what? That's pretty weird, but sure, why not? Activate me.
Activate away.
And yeah, we laid hands. I put my hands in his hands, and he started to pray over me. And while I was closing my eyes, the closest thing I could compare it with was a mushroom experience, because that's where I had some experience with. So yeah, it was almost like a short, light mushroom experience that I felt. And I thought, what was that? So after he finished in a minute, and I said to him, what was that? Like, I felt something. I couldn't place what it was. And he said, yeah, that's the Holy Spirit. I said, what? That's crazy. But from that moment, I knew there must be something, because I was not going crazy. I definitely felt a presence behind my eyes that I never felt before, not with meditation, only with mushrooms, a little bit. And that was and then eventually I thought, you know what, I'm getting these synchronicities in life, you know, that you just can't explain. And those coincidences that happen. And all those coincidences were leading me to the Christian God, to reading the Bible. So for example, I read one verse in the morning, and it was Matthew chapter 7, verse 7. And it said, ask and you shall receive. Like, it's a beautiful verse. It's actually the law of attraction in like where it comes from. Asking and you shall receive. I was reading that verse, and it's a bit longer. Knock and the door will be opened. Seek and you shall find. And those verses were suddenly coming back in a random techno song. Like, I was listening to techno in the gym, and suddenly the verses that I read in the morning, I was constantly hearing in the techno song. And in techno, there are no vocals there. I've never heard vocals in the techno like that. And I just heard this girl sing these verses that I've been reading in the morning. So those small coincidences were leading me to reading the Bible. And then I started to read the Bible. I was still not a Christian yet, but I knew, okay, the universe is telling me to read the Bible, so I'm going to read the Bible. And I discovered, indeed, wow, there's so much wisdom in there. King Solomon, if you've seen my profile picture on Instagram, like it's a king, that's King Solomon. King Solomon was the richest man ever. And he's sharing his wisdom in the book of Proverbs. Like, we can, instead of reading from Warren Buffett or reading from Jeff Bezos, they're nothing compared to King Solomon. King Solomon is sharing his wisdom directly in the book of Proverbs. And I've been reading that book like almost every day. Just a chapter from that book. And I would love to give you a book, the book of Proverbs. And you just know this guy is going to be like a multi-billionaire with this wisdom. And yeah, I found the wisdom there. And then eventually I joined a church here. And I've been going to church, and there's just this great community, accountability, people doing Bible studies. So that's been a great support for my walk with God. But initially it started there. So I always tell people, I was not looking for God. Like, I was not asking that man, hey, can you make me a Christian or whatever. There was zero desire from my part to become a Christian. But eventually I started to read the Bible and everything. It all happened. So I say God found me. That's how I describe it.
It's beautiful, man. And so how is that affecting you now? So for the people that are watching this and they're interested, they are interested in there being something a little bit more out there, but they're also interested in being successful in business and doing all the usual entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
Give me a bit of a before and after. Like, you've explained a bit about your career and the things that you've done business wise, and now you've also explained about how you've connected to God. How has that now shown up in your life in a business context?
I'm figuring out, to be honest, because there are so many verses in the Bible that are also, I don't know, because whenever I share content about Christianity or I share content about Bible, there are haters everywhere. Like, then on one hand, there are haters like, the Bible says like a rich man can't enter heaven, blah, 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 blah. And then, just haters on all sides. Like, even Christians are haters.
You're not going to avoid that, bro.
Yeah. So I'm figuring out myself, and this Dubai pastor has been helping me with that. Like, just embrace it, bro. Just embrace it. Go full on into business and just show that you can make money, because that has been the gift to you. And it's also sustainable for me, because doing this podcast and the fact that I'm talking about God and the fact that I'm like shamelessly, openly talking about it, that's a huge improvement for me as well. Like, I love this. I love sitting here with you because I'm growing here so much as a person, as an individual, just by doing this, because I was afraid. It's new for me. I don't know if it's like, for me it's the truth, but I don't know how people perceive it. There are just so many things going through my head. Can I actually say that I'm a Christian and go full into business and stuff? Isn't that controversial? Isn't that weird that I want to make like 100 million while being Christian? I don't know. I'm figuring out myself, man.
Well, interesting. Well, you kind of answered your own question earlier when you were asking me about that road to authenticity.
Yeah.
You're on it right now, sat in the chair.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're figuring it out.
For sure.
I love that, man.
For sure.
I think that's an epic point to end on. I really just want to thank you for the value you dropped, man. I really appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you very much for your prayer as well. Can you just let everybody know where they can find you, where they can get involved in anything that is you're bringing into the world? People need to know where you're at, bro.
Yeah, just my Instagram, JIARUAN, Ruan. That's it. You'll find me there. That's easy, right? Insta. That's it.
I think so. I'm sure everybody can manage an Instagram handle.
Easy. He will tag it. You'll find it. And if not, then not. Also okay.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Peace.
Sick.